And we are back for our second half with tour guide Tony. Let me bring him right on back in here and we can get started. Push a few buttons here. Take this off. And we'll add tour guide Tony. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks, Len. Good to be back.
Now, about this event that we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Where and when?
It is, let me grab my notes here, July 23rd.
Okay.
Starts at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and it runs till 11:30. That's because he's got some bands and stuff they're going to be playing late night. He might even be doing a ghost hunt somewhere. And it's at a place called the Pavilion, which is 7038 South Harlem in the suburb of Bridgeview.
Okay. All right.
And yeah,
that's a one-day event.
It is a one-day event. Yeah.
Parapalooza. Do me a favor. If he creates a banner for it,
okay,
got pictures, whoever's going to appear there.
Okay, he does have that.
Send me a picture of that via Messenger,
and
I'll post it up because I usually run. I promote something usually at the halftime of my shows.
All right,
like let's see, where is it? Right here.
Okay,
which is also on July 23rd.
Oh, all right.
Except this event, as you see, is in New Jersey.
In New Jersey, yeah.
In Woodbridge, New Jersey, on the 23rd, same day. So we're talking about two different audiences. You're talking about event in Chicagoland on the 23rd, and obviously New Jersey.
Right.
Not going to have too many people wanting to attend one or the other, or both, or whatever.
Be impossible. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say impossible, but it'd be difficult.
Yes, better have a private jet.
Yeah.
So if you got a little banner like that one, send it to me by Facebook Messenger, and I'll put it up just like I did that one.
All right, that sounds good.
Because people are still getting used to me being on the show. I'm still getting used to running it.
Right.
But I came up as a youth a fan of Joey Bishop and Johnny Carson.
Okay.
And I try to run my show a lot like Johnny Carson did his.
You used to watch the Johnny Carson show all the time.
You get a lot of information. You get a few laughs. And, we both chit-chat just like we're sitting in our own living room saying, that's the way I like to run the show.
Right. Well, that's good. That's cool.
It's a little bit different angle than you see a lot of paranormal shows. But that's the difference I'm hoping makes my show a success. That's what I'm trying to do. Is so when people appear on the show, they've got a reason. They've got an event. They've got a ghost hunt. Even if their groups are just, we're going to be doing a public event at so and so. Well, let's talk about it. So that's why I say I like the banner and be able to talk about some of the people that's going to be there. What else you got coming up in Chicago this summer?
Well, we got another conference coming up even earlier than that one, coming up on June 26th, about a month earlier, at the Pescadone Banquets.
Not familiar with that place.
It's on Archer, 6254 South Archer in Summit.
Okay.
Which I'm sure you know where Summit is.
Yes.
Little bit off what we consider the Archer Avenue Triangle, but not far. Certainly not far. Not far from Resurrection Cemetery and all that, and Justice a little further up. But my friend Jack, he ran a first-time conference for himself back in the early part of March. I want to say it was March 3rd, which I talked about Chicagoland Ghost and Resurrection Mary and tours and stuff at. He had several speakers that day. He also had about 40 vendors, and Bob Trasak that we talked about earlier. Bob Trasak was there doing palm readings. Dale Kaczmarek was there. He's doing another banquet or another conference at this banquet hall in June. Now, this one I'm not going to be speaking at. At the last one, the company, Chicago Hauntings, did have a table, which I also sat at the table. They are going to be having a table again at this one. I'll probably be sitting at that table also, but I won't be speaking at this next one. But Jack is a guy I've known for about 4 or 5 years now. He's always wanted to run a ghost conference. With Ursula not having him around here anymore, he saw an opportunity to start one up. Found a place that wasn't too expensive for his first time, and he had a really, really good turnout at the last one. It was from 12 to 6, which this one is also from 12 to 6, and it's a Sunday afternoon. But we had a very steady flow of people that came through that. It was pretty much nonstop. And the room for the speakers was full. So it really went over pretty well. So he wanted to go ahead and have another one. Going to have like tarot readers and psychics and I can't think of the other one. Astrologers, things like that. A lot of the tables will be those. And like I said, he's got about 5 or 6 speakers lined up.
Well, again, the same with the other event in July.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a banner,
yes,
saying who, what, when, and where, send it to me, and I'll throw it up.
Okay, yeah, he just actually posted one yesterday, so I'll get it to you.
Okay, cool. Now about your tours.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about, we know who you are, the star in these tours.
That's what they say. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, for the last 12 years now, I've been given tours throughout the Chicagoland area. And with working for the first company I talked about, Diane, out in Naperville, Elgin, we used to do cemetery ghost hunts in this cemetery called Bluff City out in Elgin. Where we'd spend like a few hours at night in the cemetery ghost hunting. Still could do those. They're under a group called Hands On Paranormal right now, which has the contract through them, but I've done them through the tour company. Like I mentioned, the Roundhouse and Aurora tours. Was even a tour guide out at the old abandoned Joliet prison. For a short time back in 2018 when Ursula did have the contract to do the tours and ghost hunts out there. We used to, for Ursula, do the Lake County tour, which I'm hoping the new owner brings that back eventually. That Lake County, for those not from this area, that is the suburbs north of Chicago. A lot of interesting, it was an all-day event. It was like a 8-hour ghost hunt tour. It started about 10 o'clock in the morning. We'd meet in a town called Long Grove. And we'd go hit a lot of cemeteries in the area. There's a lot of urban legends there. One of the legends is Mary Worth, supposedly the witch who was either hung or burned at the stake on her property back about the 1860s. Supposedly buried in a cemetery, Old St. Patrick's Cemetery, just outside the cemetery. Being a Catholic cemetery, they didn't accept a witch, so she was buried outside it. And the stories are, if you look in the mirror and say her name, I think it's 3 times, she'll come through the mirror. And, those legends, people, things have happened when she comes through the mirror. Now, I will have to say, we were in that cemetery one time with a group. I was with Ursula. We were giving the tour together. And we did like a little circle in the center of the cemetery, and we were running SB7 Ghost Box. And somebody had asked if the witch is here, and it said yes. And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, I think they asked the witch's name, and it said Mary. So the people in the group were actually a little freaked out by hearing that. They didn't expect that on their tour that day. But yeah, a lot of interesting areas up in Lake County. So that was an all-day tour. We used to stop at a place called The Lodge up in Antioch for a lunch break, lunch/dinner break. So I gave those tours. I've given several different Chicago tours, including what is our regular haunted history bus. We've mentioned already the Dillinger site. That's kind of a regular stop on the haunted history bus tours. St. Valentine's Day Massacre site. Those are the ones that meet at the Congress Hotel. Lincoln Park is a stop. The Eastland disaster, the boat that went down in the Chicago River in 1915. The Alley of Death behind, it was the Oriental Theater here in Chicago for many years, but they changed the name to the Nederlander Theater now. But it was the Iroquois Theater in 1903 when over 600 people died in a fire there that day. The Hull House over on the UIC campus, very creepy building and
that's a creepy place. I've been there in daytime and nighttime.
Yeah.
Either way, it's a little bit creepy.
Either way, it's creepy. Matter of fact, the guy just today, just about an hour ago, sent me some pictures from a tour that he took with me a couple of weeks ago, a bus tour, and we stopped there. And I got to get a closer look at this picture, but it does look like there is some sort of figure standing in the window looking out at us while we're around the building on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the regular bus tours. Then I give the Resurrection Mary tours, Archer Avenue, all that area. Got that coming up this coming Saturday. I give the Devil in the White City tours, which daytime tour. It's about H.H. Holmes, the serial killer. We go down to where his old building would have been. The Inglewood Post Office site now, 63rd and Wallace, right over there. I give several different walking tours, including one in Lincoln Park that starts at the Chicago History Museum, ends at the Valentine's Massacre. Again, people not from the area. Lincoln Park is one of the biggest parks in Chicago. It has the Lincoln Park Zoo in it also. And all of that, including the zoo, was built over what used to be the old city cemetery in Chicago.
Yes.
And there's still some remnants of that around, including a big mausoleum called the Couch Tomb.
The Couch Tomb.
Yeah, right at one end of the park.
And there's still a lot of bodies in the ground.
There are still some estimate about 15,000 bodies in the ground from city cemetery days that they just
including in the zoo where they unearthed a couple.
They did, yeah. They did, yeah. Yeah, and we for Ursula, we also did ghost tours in the zoo itself a few years back. We also investigated the zoo, spent some nights there, and had some interesting results.
Yes, that whole place is interesting to investigate.
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely. Also, I give a walking tour on Monday and Wednesday nights in the Prairie Avenue Historic District, which is about 18th and Michigan, a little bit south of the downtown. It's where all the old millionaires lived in Chicago at one time.
Right.
People like Marshall Field and Potter Palmer, the Palmer House Hotel, Armour and Swift, the meatpacking giants, a lot of millionaires. George Pullman, the train guy, all lived down there at one point. A lot of interesting stories, a lot of ghost stories.
You ever go over there, leading tours over to the Glisner House or the Clark House?
Oh, yeah, the Clark House is one of the regulars on that tour. The Glisner House is where we start the tour.
Okay. I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah, the tour meets at the Glisner House, and then we go down the block, go over to the Clark House. We actually, even last year, as part of our Christmas tours, they let us, because they got the Glisner House all decorated for Christmas, kind of like a Victorian era Chicago family would live. They let us take our Christmas tours into the mansion itself.
Really?
And we get a tour inside there. And the stories are that the architect who built the mansion, Henry Hobson Richardson, who died before it was completed, but there's a big portrait of him in the living room still there that the family had painted, haunts the place.
A couple things about that location. Watch the portrait.
Yeah.
Because the head will move slightly and the eyes will follow you around the room.
Okay.
Also,
when we get in there, I'm going to check that.
one of the previous owners, one of the ladies who lived there, she is bad about, or good, whichever way you want to look at it, about appearing in different ages around the house.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes she appears as she was in her 60s. Other times you'll see her in her 30s. Sometimes she will appear as a little girl.
Okay. Now that's interesting that you say that, because on one of the tours last summer, and these people were going to send me this picture. I gave them all kinds of ways they could send me the picture, my phone number, email address, messenger, but they never sent it to me. But it looks like a little girl looking out of one of the second floor windows.
Okay, that's probably the one I'm talking about.
They were just like taking, they actually weren't even looking for like a paranormal picture. They were like, oh, this house is so cool. And they were just taking pictures of it. And then one of the girls goes, what is this? And she called me over and we looked at it, and it looks like somebody looking out the window. And the interesting thing is she took several shots and it's only in the one.
Only in the one.
Yeah.
The usual ghost photo.
Right. Yeah. The others, there's nothing even that look like that. Oh, wow. Go ahead.
You remember the dining room?
Yeah.
In that house?
Mm-hmm.
Where they've got the whole great big table set up in the room.
Right. Yeah.
It was set up like it used to be, the actual dining room.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
I was in there, and I was shooting some stills. They won't let you shoot video. And I was looking at the chairs. One of the chairs moved back like somebody was about to sit down.
Yeah.
And I could actually see the cushion with an indentation, like somebody was sitting in it, move.
Interesting.
The tour guy came back, said the tour had moved on, and she came back, said, what's going on? You'd catch up with the tour. I said, watch the seat cushion. And she saw it move. She said, okay, there's somebody here. Let's go.
Yeah.
Move along.
Now, we did this several tours. There's a couple of the tour guides are pretty good, and they'll talk about that kind of stuff. Yes. There was one guy we had who would not. A couple of people asked him about ghosts and say, oh, no, there's no ghosts in this place.
Yes. You kind of split. Some of them, that's how I knew the story about one of the former owners appearing at different ages. I had a guide once that gave me that story.
Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting.
That came from a tour guide.
Right.
There.
Yeah.
And but it's like you catch as catch can. Sometimes you get a tour guide that will openly deny there's any haunting there.
Yeah.
Others will give you say some people have seen. I'm not saying it's haunted, but we've had reports of this. And I don't know if that lady that again, this was back in 2015, summer of, because I did a lot of investigating in 2015 because I knew I knew when I left Chicago, I would probably never go back to Chicago.
No, okay.
So I was sitting in a lot of places that I wanted to get, and I had been in the Glisner house and the Clark house, and I wanted to hit that one more time. And of course, all the photos I took was with full spectrum camera.
Okay. Yeah.
I took any indication that it was a full spectrum camera off of it, so in case there was somebody that didn't want any kind of ghost hunting going on, they couldn't tell. I was just taking photos.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Where can people contact you at the Chicagoland Tours and Mysterious Events Facebook
That's
page?
My own personal page that I run events out of. I also run ghost hunts. Organize people to go. We went to the Rhodes Hotel in Indiana last summer. We went to
That's a pretty good trip.
It is, Chicago. Yeah, near Indianapolis. We went to, over the winter, we went to the old Baraboo Inn up in Wisconsin.
I never went there.
No, this is my first time going there. Definitely an
What'd you get?
interesting old building. It was
Really?
like a little hotel at one point, which a lot of the stories out there are of it being connected to the mob and Al Capone. I don't know if you're familiar with she used to come to Ursula's conferences all the time, paranormal author named Amelia Cotter.
Amelia Cotter.
Yeah.
We are discussing when she can appear on the show. Right now she's hitting the show circuit.
Right, yeah.
Advertising her book, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So
she wrote a book about the Baraboo Inn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get her on the show. Just a matter of when she's got a chance.
Right. That's where I first heard about the location was from Amelia in her book, and then I had a couple other friends that went up there a couple of times, and a few other paranormal groups. A couple of people that I don't know if they're still in, but they used to be in Dale Kazmarek's group, Kathy Para and her sister Marge. They wrote me.
I have met them.
You probably have, yeah. They wrote me about, oh, that's a great place. The basement is so haunted, and I will admit, we had activity. One of the guys that I was with, he jumped like something touched him in the basement. He was sitting in a chair doing like an EVP session. We were sitting around him, and he just like jumped up. And we're like, what happened? He's like, something touched me.
Wow.
And then we spent the night upstairs. And a lot of people told us that, you're going to spend the night there. You're not going to sleep. Now, we did sleep. We didn't get too much happen upstairs. But definitely throughout the rest of the building, we did get a lot. So, and then I also do the church in Cicero. I do a lot of regular investigations at the church in Cicero, Mahala's church. Have you been there?
No, I have not. So what goes on there?
That used to be the Snap It Paranormal Team headquarters.
Okay.
Laura Hannigan.
Been a while yet, but yeah.
Yeah, that was their headquarters. Mahala is the psychic for the group. That she runs the spiritual church out of that building, which is based on spiritualism and the spiritualist movement. Seances, psychics, things like that all came out of the spiritualist movement. The Fox sisters back in the upstate New York in the mid 19th century, and Mahala does seances out of the building. The building that the spiritualist church is in now used to be a funeral home. It was a funeral home for many years in Cicero. It's right on the corner of 25th and Laramie. And the family who owned the funeral home made so much money off of the Eastland disaster and the wakes that they ran out of their funeral home that they were able to expand the business and build a bigger portion of the funeral home. So a lot of the wakes from the Eastland happened there. Which was located at the Western Electric Company, which was on the boat that day heading to their company picnic when the boat capsized in the Chicago River. Over 800 people died when that happened. That was a Western Electric Company from Cicero. So a lot of them lived in Cicero. So that's where a lot of the wakes happened.
Mm-hmm. For people who don't know, that was shortly after the Titanic. Killed about as many people as the Titanic, but unlike the Titanic, where it was mostly crew that died, in the Eastland, there was very little crew on the ship, on about a dozen or so. So it was mostly passengers who died. So they actually got a lot more passengers killed than the Titanic.
They did, yeah. Because the
you
Eastland.
You heard one of the primary reasons why it capsized, don't you? Was because of the Titanic.
Oh, yes, right.
They had all the new regulations. You had to have so many lifeboats, and the only place on the Eastland they could put a lifeboat was up top.
Right.
Which made the ship top heavy, and that's probably what caused it.
Right. It had not even left the dock. It was in the Chicago River on between Clark and LaSalle and Wacker. and it had not even left the dock.
Yeah, right. Now, have you ever been to that cemetery where a lot of the passengers are buried, and they got the little memorial?
Yeah. Bohemian National Cemetery.
Bohemian. Thank you. I could not remember the name of it, but Bohemian. I did. There was an event there. I don't think you were there. I don't remember. Ursula was there as a guest. It was not her event.
Yeah.
They were doing some of the sounds to music that they recorded paranormally. And we're kind of more or less doing a concert there in that little meeting room there.
Okay.
And opened it up for an investigation up to a certain time. I forget, 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't remember. But it was on the 100th anniversary.
Oh, okay. I think Ursula told me about this, but I wasn't there. But go ahead.
She was there. Ursula was there. And but she was walking around, her and a couple of her friends attended the concert mostly. Of course, you know me. I got a full spectrum camera in hand, and I went back to as soon as I could. As soon as they opened it up for investigation, if you want to go investigate, go for it. And of course, you don't have to ask me twice. You say
exactly.
You say a word after go investigate. You're talking to my backside because that's all you're going to see because I'm already running.
Right.
Went out there, hit it with some equipment. The little memorial out there with a big steering wheel there.
Right.
And sat there for hours. Ended up talking to several ghosts. Interactive, and we got several words relevant. One guy, Mikey, don't you?
Big
Titanic fan,
right? Yeah.
Big Titanic fan. He asked him who the captain of the Titanic was, and if they remember when the Titanic sank. Which, of course, as we just mentioned, is relevant to the Eastland,
right?
And they named the captain and the date of the Titanic sinking.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yes. Yeah. We got several very relevant, quickly interactive. It's not like we had to wait 15 minutes to get a relevant answer. We were running EchoVox there for a long time. And
was it this particular session where they got some Czech words that came through?
Czech words?
Yeah, Czech language.
Oh, yes.
Okay, yeah. They initially didn't know what they were, but then they found out they were words in the Czech language. Yeah. I remember Ursula telling me about this. Yeah.
Yes, and I was one of the investigators.
Oh, okay. Interesting. That's good to know because I talk about that when I go to tours and go by there.
There was a lot of tension there at that point because you know what went on between her and Carl.
Yeah.
And Carl and Wendy were there.
Yeah.
And so there was
still a lot of tension with that.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
But Carl was wanting to investigate with me. So I was out there with Carl, Wendy, I think Pam, and Mikey, and a few others. Out there where our fannies were hurting sitting down out there. There were some benches there, and I think it was some hardwood benches, and we were uncomfortable by the time we finished because we were out there for so long. But you're right, we got several things that were not English replies.
Right. Yeah.
And we picked up some rather incredible evidence. And of course, a few things were moving that we caught. Unverifiable is where it was paranormal or not. Because you know how that goes. You see something, you don't know if it's a ghost or not. You can't say, I saw a ghost. You can't say that. Right. You don't know.
Right.
But we got several interactive responses that night. That was an incredible evening.
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah, when I was first training for the tours with Ursula and her ex-husband Dave at the time, they brought that all up, that whole, with the investigation. And I didn't realize you were a part of it, but that's cool to know.
Yes, I was one of the major parts of that.
Yeah. Yeah, they talk about that, and about the investigation and how they got the Czech words that they didn't initially know what they were, and then they looked them up, and they were words in the Czech language, and there were a lot of Czech immigrants that died on that boat.
Yes, that was like I said, very interesting evening. Now,
yeah,
you like on the tours that you do,
mm-hmm.
the websites are running down below our pictures.
Right.
Get my hand here, right?
Yeah.
There. So the Chicago Hauntings tours
mm-hmm.
are, of course, at chicagohauntings.com. They can get your times, your places to meet, how long the tour is going to take, and any other relevant information, ticket prices, where they can buy a ticket.
All on there. Yep. The regular tours, you can also book private tours if you just want your private group to do a tour.
Oh, so say a paranormal group wanted to book with you, they can book with you, and you'll take them a few places.
Yep, exactly. We also do, and it's privately. We do, like you mentioned, going to Ethel's party, which Ursula used to do those pub crawls. We don't do them as like regular tours right now, but we do have them privately, and I've done several of them throughout the last few years. A lot of the old bars are gone. Yeah, they are a lot of fun. A lot of the old bars are gone, but there's still a few of them, especially over in Wicker Park in Bucktown. You have the Gold Star is over there, and the Bucktown Inn, and a lot of old bars that have been around for a while.
I hosted several at Ethel's party.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know what Ethel's party bar was, it was only a bar for about 15 years.
Yeah.
Before that, it was a mortuary for about 95 years.
Right.
And the primary spirit there was Bruno Rodi. And Bruno Rodi was one of Al Capone's favorite bomb makers.
Yeah.
And so he was a rough rowdy.
And it was right about in Chinatown, in Chicago.
26th in Wentworth is the corner zone. Can't forget that.
Last time I was over there a couple years ago, it's still an empty storefront.
They've been doing some work on the building. Of course, they had to. The city was making them either work on the facade of the building, or tear it down because the facade was falling off. There was some talk about making a bank out of it, but of course, the way times are, I can't see opening a bank right there.
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen.
But theoretically, Bruno is gone. He may visit there occasionally, of course, but he was stuck there for so long. He's out doing whatever he wants to. He's a lot happier person to deal with now.
Oh, I'm sure, probably, yeah.
He's not the grumpy spirit that knocked the hat off my head, walked through me rather violently, and shoved a few people down there.
Yeah.
Because all the 20 some odd spirits he was holding captive in the place got released when he did.
Well, that's good. That's good. As much as, us ghost hunters and tour guides and stuff like the ghosts, it is best that they do get released and go on to where they need to go.
Right. Bruno, he's just roaming the world, doing what he wants to do as a much happier spirit. The spirits he was holding there, I think most of them moved on to the other side, especially the little girl.
That's good.
So her whole family was wiped out there on the interstate because Wentworth runs parallel to the Eisenhower.
Right, yeah.
And right in front of where Ethel's party used to be, the empty building as you're talking about, there quite a couple of decades ago, there was a bad wreck there. An entire family was wiped out.
Okay, this story I didn't know, but that's interesting.
And somebody else did the research. I was just told this story. The whole family got wiped out, and apparently the little girl went immediately to the first building. There was people.
Okay, makes sense.
So hopefully, and of course, immediately got captured by Bruno Rodi. And he may have lured her in there. Who knows?
Yeah, it could
didn't ask him. I didn't want to know.
Right.
But she got freed specifically because I remember one night on Halloween I was in there doing a tour,
Mm-hmm.
And I got this on video where she was holding a psychic's or a feeler's hand, and she was wearing kind of balloony Halloween type dress.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see the indention with a little girl standing beside her holding her hand.
Okay. Wow.
So that spirit, she got moved on. Hopefully she is residing with her family.
Hopefully, yeah. That's good. That's good. They moved on.
Yeah, I did that several years ago. That was that was quite literally a headache.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I bet it was. Yeah.
So the place is just still empty. That's what I thought.
I was there with the guy Jack that's running the conference. Actually, we went over there just to see what's there now, and this was probably about 2 years ago, and it was just an empty storefront. Mm-hmm. I think there's some apartments still upstairs, but just empty down in the lower level.
Well, they had rented those out for quite a while when I left town.
It looked like there were some lights on upstairs. That's what we kind of noticed.
Maybe they restored it enough, and the owners are renting those upstairs apartments out now.
Yeah, they might be.
I would love to get back in there, but of course the place is kind of emptied out, so it's not the haunted place it used to be.
Right? Yeah. So I mean, I didn't get any particular vibes in front of the place that night, but I mean, I did know the history of it and all, and I know that that used to be just a regular stop on Ursula's Ghost Tours.
Yes, but it's emptied out now.
Yeah. Surprisingly, I mean, this is something I've talked about with Jack, the other guy that running the conference. Really surprisingly, there aren't too many tours that I know of that go to Chinatown these days.
Richard Crowe used to base his tours in Chinatown.
Right, yeah. He had
there is some haunted stuff in Chinatown.
Yeah. I don't really know why, but it seems like for some reason it's kind of fallen out of favor with the tour companies and even paranormal investigators. I don't really hear too much about anybody going into Chinatown doing any investigations or anything these days like you used to, 10, 12, 15 years ago.
Well, you know the story of Bruno Rodi in 26th Street, right?
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was the head of the 26th Street gang.
Yeah.
And then Al Capone came from New York and took it over.
Mm-hmm.
And when the purge of the mob in Chicagoland in the 90s, they left 3 mob gangs intact because they just did not have enough on them to destroy them. And one of them is the 26th Street gang.
So they're still around today.
Yes, they're still around today. Mm-hmm. And they used to have a little piece of the Ethel's Party bar, mm-hmm. the owner of which moved on to a much bigger, much nicer place. Because they just did not have the good clientele to get in with the band circuit.
Mm-hmm.
Like so many bars in Chicago do. I don't know if you are much of the party scene of
not
the
so
bars
much
in
anymore.
Chicago.
Yeah, not too much anymore.
But I used to work at another bar with the roller derby girls.
Oh, okay.
I actually hosted a couple of events down there.
Oh, which bar?
What is the name of that place? It's been too long.
Yeah,
so much else going on.
Right. Yeah.
But they had some fundraisers there, and I was hosting that and filmed several of them. And what they'll do is play one set, about an hour, move on to another bar and play another set there.
Okay.
And the bar, the band who was at the other bar moves on to another bar, and they rotate. Ethel's Party was at the location where it was kind of a bad location, and they did not have the clientele that wanted to tolerate a band.
Oh, okay.
They tried to have it once or twice, and they would end up just it'd be a fight. It'd be throwing stuff at the band.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of a bad scene, and that's why they moved on.
Okay.
So you wonder why some guy who was struggling in a bar at one location all of a sudden goes up into this much nicer location, fixes it all up, and automatically goes into the band scene. The band's in and out. Where did the investment money come from?
Where? Where?
Where indeed?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep. Like I said, the 26th Street Gang is still alive and well in Chicago.
Okay.
The one thing about Ethel's party, the wife would not go to the restroom.
I heard.
I don't know if you ever took a.
Yeah, I did. I don't know if you ever story.
When I was in Midnight Paranormal, I sent a female member because the bar was open. I could not go into the women's bathroom, but she went in there with a camera and was pointed it at the open stall. And a light anomaly, like I was describing an hour ago, where it looks kind of like a tadpole, came out of the wall from above the toilet, came across. It got right about the center of the doorway.
Yeah,
and then came out of the door and went into the camera, like my finger is. It was straight into the camera, and all of a sudden disappeared.
Interesting.
He got to the lens where the camera could not focus.
On
the light, and it disappeared. And she was shocked by it. And it was some great video. And my wife would not go in there because of creepy feeling. Plus, you could literally smell the cocaine.
Oh, really? Oh.
I was told by a bartender there that you could go in there in men or women's restroom after Friday or Saturday night, especially, and you could run your nose, if you want to do such a thing, across the counter in the bathroom and get high as hell on coke.
Still all left on there.
Yeah, because people up there getting their lines together.
Yeah. So, speaking of Midnight Paranormal, a couple of people that were in Midnight came to a few investigations that me and my friend Jack were running recently.
Which ones?
Dave Wismer. We did the Allerton Mansion out in Monticello, Illinois. We did an investigation. Jack ran that one about a year ago. I think it was about last May. And Dave Wismer and his wife came to that one. And then, Anthony Penna, he's been at several things. And his dad came to the church a couple weeks back in Cicero. His dad, Ralph. Haven't seen any of those guys in a long time.
Yeah, the Malays are still around. Nick
Paul, that's right. Paul and Nick, they were at Jack's conference too. That's right. Yeah,
they are
Paul and Nick. I've seen at a lot of things.
Nick has been real big in Paranormal Unity.
Right. Yeah.
He's had his issues. I'm not going to go into them because I don't know details. And can't say anything good. Can't say anything right. Don't talk about it. But I know he's had a couple of issues, and I wish him the best. I wish he continue on in the paranormal.
Yeah.
Because you just got to keep going.
You do.
I can't find anybody to work with me here in Arkansas. There's very few paranormal investigators here. There's a guy named Alan Lowe.
This area.
Yeah, they used to run a paranormal group in just outside Little Rock for years, and he was almost saddened by the fact when I came down here, because I'd contacted him when I was still in Chicago, because he said, I wish you'd come down here a couple of years earlier, because he all but disbanded his group because he couldn't get anybody to join it.
That's interesting. There's so many up here in Chicago.
And I think there's one other young lady up north on the northeast, I think, of Arkansas that does some investigating. You did have, I don't think they've been active at all since COVID hit. We had two brothers down in Southwest over there, between El Dorado and Texarkana. Everybody knows where Texarkana is.
Yeah.
So very close to Texarkana, which is on the Texas-Arkansas border, obviously.
I've heard of El Dorado too.
Yeah, it's about they were about 3/4 of the way to 2/3 from El Dorado toward Texarkana.
Mm-hmm.
But they just investigated to them by themselves. They didn't do anything. There was a female group in Little Rock. I think they since disbanded.
Mm.
So here in Arkansas, there's almost no investigation going on, and you have so much. You've got the Crescent Hotel,
right? Yeah,
and in Eureka Springs is where the Crescent is.
Mm-hmm.
There is another equally haunted hotel in Eureka Springs.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually 2 haunted hotels there.
Okay.
You have several Al Capone linked spots in Hot Springs, including one restaurant that had I call it a statue loosely because I think it's made of fiberglass of Al Capone.
Mm-hmm.
They used to keep outside, but people kept stealing it. What's funny is people would steal it and then be threatened by it and have bad dreams and say that and just have that creepy feeling, I need to take this back. So they returned it. And I've got Al Capone saying that he did not want that statue moved.
Mm-hmm.
I know somebody who's contacted by Al on several occasions. Al does not like me.
No,
because it all goes back to Ethel's party. I kind of turned Bruno Rodi to the good side.
Yeah.
And Al Capone didn't appreciate that.
Oh, okay.
But they've since moved that little fiberglass statue inside.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
easier way to keep an eye on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to go into either break into the restaurant and steal it or during active hours when you got people walking by it all night long.
Yeah, you're not going to walk out with it.
You got several battlefields, including one up north at the Missouri border, the Pea Ridge. And then you had, of course, ongoing battles in the South when Camden was the Confederate capital of Arkansas and Little Rock was the Union capital of Arkansas. So several battlefields to investigate here. Just south of the border, you have Poverty Point, which was an Indian village from thousands of years ago. We're talking back.
You got a lot of interesting stuff. Yeah, you got a lot of interesting stuff around
back
there.
in the BC area timeline. So this was 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. It was inhabited by Native Americans.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So if you want to read up on something, read Poverty Point. I actually investigated the place. The only person that I know of that has investigated the place. Come up with a weird Echovox reading there. There's a little mound there that the Native Americans used for something, but the people who actually had it, they named it Poverty Point not because of Indians, but because that's where a plantation was, and that was the name of the plantation.
Oh, okay.
One of the owners used that one mound as a burial spot, but there was only 2 marked graves. And they always figured the lady's husband was buried there. But I got on Echovox, and of course took a little bit, but I got her talking a little bit. And so as I was asking her a couple of questions, got a male voice that come on and said, "You're standing on my grave." So I said, "Okay, I'm sorry."
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So Poverty Point does have its ghost.
I'm going to definitely look into that.
Yeah, look it up. It's got a lot of storyline. One storyline you may not read about, there was some rumors and some talk and some research that say it could have been part of Atlantis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Minoans from Crete crossed the Atlantic, sailed up the Mississippi, because they taught the Egyptians how to sail the Nile.
Mm-hmm.
And went up into the Lake Superior area, which has got the world's purest copper ore. Dug up a whole bunch of copper because they've got mines up there that were built thousands of years ago, and they're not sure who built them.
Mm-hmm.
Moved tons of ore that's missing from up there, barged it down the Mississippi, took it to Poverty Point, and instead of the Poverty Point places being houses, that it was kins. And they smelted copper ore and shipped the bricks over to back over to Crete. It's kind of wondering about it when they found off the coast of Israel, Syria area, about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
An old ship that they could date the wood when it sank that had got copper ingots. It had also had tin. And you remember what tin and copper do?
Mm-hmm.
Makes it 4-to-1 ratio. That's bronze. So we're talking about the creators of the Bronze Age. They checked the copper ingots and saw that they indeed came from the Lake Superior area.
Mm-hmm.
But that ship sank about 3,500 years ago.
Wow.
And this is before Christ. This is 1,015 years before Christ. And how did Lake Superior copper get into the far eastern Mediterranean?
Yeah, 3,500 years ago. Yeah, who would have made that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there. Mm-hmm. So was I part of Atlantis? There's no way to prove
one way
to go. So that's just, and of course, you've also got the killing spot for Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not too far from here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand what I guess it's just too much in the Bible Belt.
That could be. Yeah.
Our one Paracon, which is a small event, it's always smaller than even Ursula's smallest events.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have any international TV stars coming in. But all they've got is some local. It's getting fewer and fewer local things want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
One guy comes in. He does a little talk. He had 5 minutes of screen time on a Ghost Adventures episode that originally aired almost 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And that's his whole claim to fame is about 5 minutes of airtime.
Yeah.
That's what they kind of send to the Paracon with. It's been canceled the last 2 years. It's in October. It's actually on the same time Ursula used to do her event.
Mm-hmm.
And they, of course, hadn't had it the last 2 years. They will have it this October. Whether I'm going, and I don't know yet.
Okay. Hopefully they'll get somebody.
Yeah.
Get people to come out to it.
Get people to come to it. Hey, it's I think $10.
Oh yeah, that's cheap.
And they run it in the Macarthur Military Museum.
Okay.
It's a military museum. Yes. And they call it Macarthur Museum because MacArthur was born there.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So, and it's very haunted. You can, if you go in there when it's empty and kind of concentrate and watch the air movements, you can actually see spirits moving around in there.
Okay. And that's pretty cheap, $10. I think Ursula is about like $60 the last time that she ran.
Yeah. Well, to pay for those guests, they charge money.
Exactly. You have to. Yeah.
And you usually have to put them up, fly them in first class.
Right.
And then you had to put them up in a nice hotel in a nice room, pay for all their meals. And that is not cheap.
It isn't. Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Not
we got about 5 minutes left. I want to cut it off in about 2 minutes. Now, do you want to continue for another one? Or you think you're done?
Well, I would love to, but I do have a tour that I'm going to have to get ready for tonight.
Okay.
Okay. But yeah, no, this has been great. This has been a pleasure.
We'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this.
Let's real quick give out your 2 places. It's running below on the screen, right down here. Chicago Haunting Tours,
Chicagoland Tours, and Paranormal Events.
Chicagoland Tours and Mysterious Events. There's a Facebook page for that.
Right. Facebook page for both of those.
Okay.
And the 2 paranormal conferences coming up. One at the Pescadone Banquets, June 26th. And then the other one, July 23rd, Parapalooza at the Pavilion out in Bridgeview. All right. Part of both of those.
All right. We'll call it a show and do the wrap up. Tony, it's been a pleasure. We will do this again.
Definitely. Had a good time. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It really went by fast.
Yeah, it did.
So let me get on out of here and exit away and turn it back over to Bones. Bones, take us home.
Thanks for watching our show. Be sure to tune in to next week as once again we journey way down south into Bayou Country for another heaping portion of Southern Fried Paranormal with Len Dorman and Bones. Make sure to like, share, and follow. Y'all come back now. You hear?